The Baltimore Ravens barely kicked off the season, and there's already reason for concern. Jaire Alexander, the big addition to their defense, is dealing with the same knee issue that has bothered him over the past few years. A player who can completely change a game is already missing practice before the season even starts. And that raises a huge question. Will Alexander be ready when the Ravens face the Buffalo Bills in Week 1? Or will the same injuries that haunted his time in Green Bay start to haunt Baltimore too? Jaire Alexander arrived in Baltimore surrounded by huge expectations. It's no exaggeration to say he can be one of the best defenders in the NFL when he's healthy. His aggressive style, ability to read plays, and speed to shut down elite receivers are exactly the kind of weapons every team wants. But along with all that talent has always come the same worry, keeping him on the field long enough to make a real difference. Since 2021, the numbers make the problem clear. He's played just 34 games over 4 seasons. Far too few for someone who should be a consistent presence at a high level. And the reason? Injuries, especially to his knee, which have become a recurring theme in his recent career. Now, right in the early days with Baltimore, that shadow has returned. Missing preseason practices is a warning sign that the same obstacles he faced in Green Bay could resurface in purple and black. When he's on the field, the defense elevates to a whole new level. When he's out, instability creeps in and questions about reliability grow fast. The dilemma is exactly that. How much can a player this talented deliver if his body doesn't hold up? The Ravens knew this risk existed when they signed him. It wasn't a surprise, but it's hard not to feel the frustration of seeing the same issue pop up before Week 1 even arrives. What was once a distant possibility is now reality. And this is where John Harbaugh steps in. Try to calm things down and share what's really going on behind the scenes. John Harbaugh was quick to address Alexander's absence from practice and made a point to calm any panic. According to him, there's nothing serious threatening the cornerback season. His explanation was straightforward. Alexander went through a simple procedure to take care of his knee, something that was already planned, and now just needs a few days to rest before returning to practice. Harbaugh highlighted that this kind of care is standard for players with a history of injuries. Think of it like preventive maintenance to make sure he's ready when the real games start. The message was meant to reassure, showing there's no immediate risk of a long-term absence. Yet, seeing the same injury again naturally raises eyebrows outside the locker room. Harbaugh's confidence carries weight, but it doesn't erase the caution flag. When a player arrives with a needs-to-be-managed label, every absence takes on extra meaning. Official statements may be positive, but the memory of Alexander's recent history doesn't vanish easily. Even a simple explanation becomes a talking point among analysts and fans alike. In the end, Harbaugh is protecting the player and keeping the environment stable. But the big question remains, will Alexander be ready for the season opener against one of the NFL's most explosive offenses? The schedule leaves no room for mistakes, and in Week 1 the Ravens face the Bills, one of the conference's most powerful teams. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and company put any defense to the test, and facing that attack without Alexander will be a huge blow. That's why the big question now is whether the cornerback can recover in time to be available for the opener. Having Alexander on the field completely changes how the defense can operate. He's the type of player who can shut down the opponent's top receiver, which frees the rest of the secondary to work with less pressure. Without him, adjustments are immediate, forcing younger players like Nate Wiggins and others to shoulder big responsibilities right away. The weight of this first matchup goes beyond the standings. It's a chance to send a statement to the AFC right out of the gate, showing strength against one of the favorites. If Alexander can't play, this opportunity could turn into a real test of resilience for the rest of the defense. The impact of his absence isn't just tactical, it's psychological too. The uncertainty about Alexander's Week 1 availability adds tension and raises stakes. And here's the twist. Why did a player willing to give up more money to play in Baltimore already start his journey facing so much doubt? Jaire Alexander didn't come to Baltimore just for the contract. He had bigger offers elsewhere, but chose a 1-year deal worth up to $6 million. Why? The chance to reunite with Lamar Jackson, his former teammate at Louisville, and compete on a team that has real Super Bowl aspirations. This move showed something rare in the NFL, a top-tier player putting personal connections and competitive goals above money. In a league where every dollar counts, Alexander made it clear he wanted to be in Baltimore. That kind of decision earns respect in the locker room and creates a strong bond with the team. The sacrifice also raises the pressure to succeed. If he had taken a bigger offer elsewhere, his financial security wouldn't depend on this season. By choosing the Ravens, Alexander bet not only on the team but also on himself, believing he could stay healthy and prove his value. But this story of financial sacrifice gets complicated when old injuries resurface. The risk Baltimore took becomes even more apparent, and it's easy to see why comparisons with the Packers' decision are inevitable.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
Alexander leaving Green Bay was ultimately a business decision. The Packers saved $17 million by cutting the cornerback, believing it wasn't worth investing so much in a player who was rarely available. It was a cold, numbers-based move, even though he's one of the most talented players at his position. Baltimore, on the other hand, saw an opportunity. Instead of paying the full price, they got Alexander at a much lower cost, with $4 million guaranteed. It's a classic gamble. If he stays healthy, the technical payoff could be huge. But if the injuries continue, the team could end up spending millions without getting the impact they hoped for. This contrast shows a lot about the two team situations. Green Bay, rebuilding around Jordan Love, preferred to cut costs and invest elsewhere. Baltimore, in full contender mode, chose to take the risk for a chance to add an all-pro talent to their defense. It's the kind of bet only a team aiming for titles makes. Even so, the decision has consequences. One is already showing: the instability when a key player can't practice, and that directly affects the dynamics of the Ravens' defensive backs. Every practice Alexander misses has a ripple effect across the secondary. Young players like Nate Wiggins get more reps, which can be good in the long run. But losing a veteran of Alexander's caliber upsets the balance of the unit. Marlon Humphrey remains the anchor, but the plan was for Alexander to be the perfect complement, adding experience and aggression. Without him on the field, preparation becomes less stable. The defensive coordinator has to adjust schemes, test different combinations, and sometimes put players in situations they're not fully ready for. Constant changes like this can wear down the defense over a long season, especially against powerful offenses. Alexander's presence goes beyond X's and O's. He brings leadership confidence and a playing style that inspires those around him. Missing practices means losing part of that energy, and it's not something that comes back easily. Even if it's not a major problem now, repeated absences could become a real burden down the line. The impact on the group highlights Alexander's importance. And it raises the big question: how much can he actually stay on the field to justify the Ravens' investment? Ultimately, the discussion about Jaire Alexander isn't about talent. It's about durability. He's proven time and again that he can play at an elite level. The problem is how often he can actually stay on the field to show it. That's the dilemma that has followed a career. And now it's a Ravens concern too. Baltimore signed him knowing there would be highs and lows. The idea was simple. If he stays healthy, the defense takes a huge step forward. But if injuries become routine, the team will have to deal with constant adjustments and frustrations. With only a one-year contract, each missed game hits even harder because there's no guarantee beyond this season. This creates an uncertain future. If Alexander can stay on the field and play at a high level, he could earn a chance to extend his career in Baltimore. If not, he might repeat the cycle from Green Bay: flashes of brilliance interrupted by long absences. In the end, it all comes down to availability. That will be the real measure of whether Baltimore's investment pays off, or the risk ends up outweighing the reward. Jaire Alexander's arrival was a bold, promising move for the Ravens, but the first signs already show why it was a risky bet. His talent isn't in question. When he's healthy, he's one of the league's best. The problem is a recurring knee injury, which brings all those durability doubts back. Harbaugh is trying to keep things calm, and the coaching staff expects him to be ready for the Bills, but the uncertainty is already hanging over the team. In a season that promises to be tough and competitive, every detail matters, and losing a player of his caliber right away would be a big hit. The big question now is clear. Will Alexander stay on the field enough to justify Baltimore's gamble? Or will the team face the same cycle of expectations and frustrations that followed him in Green Bay? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jaire Alexander can become a cornerstone of this defense? One thing's for sure. This story is far from over, and the next chapters could shape not just his future, but just how dominant this defense can be in 2025.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself. See you there, and until the next video, go Flock.